since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
And we made it to Friday morning with Stan Pierchoski. Stan, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
We've considered a whole week.
We have.
And we've made it to your time of the morning.
We have. I didn't adjust my headphones. They get pretty hot for Mean Joe.
Mean Joe has a sure enough hard hearing.
And, I've got the problem too. At least my wife tells me I do.
Well, my wife tells me that too, but I think I hear pretty good.
I certainly hear what I want to hear.
Yeah. Don't we all? Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we do make it to another Friday where we do our show every Friday, and it just seems to go. Some weeks go faster than others. This was the fast one. I think last week I said I thought the last week went kind of slow, but today I'm looking back. This week just zoomed by, and of course it
has.
There were other things going on during this week. We have that show over at Pulaski at the theater coming up, and it opens a week from today.
That's right.
Yeah, we do I'll just start with that. We do the show 1776, the musical. Now we're doing that for the 250th anniversary. Now the Star Theater has done that before, but it's been a while. And last time we actually did it a couple times over the 20-some years. But
oh wow!
I'm directing the show, but I also have a part in it. Okay, because it takes 27 men and 2 women. We had to recruit, to get that many men. Women are usually easy to get into plays, but men just don't want to do it. But anyway, so we had to fill a role. So I actually took a role where I can kind of help. If things get off track, I should be able to help get them back on. But I played John Hancock, the President of Congress.
Yes.
And it's a great show. We've been in production. It opens next Friday night, so we have like a couple rehearsals on the next week. This week coming up, it's coming together. Whenever you do a play and you get this close to opening night, you always feel like you could use another month. But just because we always do these things in like 6 weeks, which is a lot of work in a short period of time. But it's shaping up. It's looking really good. The songs are looking good. Now we're fine tuning it. We've been running the show every night, trying to speed it up and get it down to the time it needs to be. But it's looking good. It's looking good.
Yeah.
So I think you enjoyed the show. Plays this next week. So it plays Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The first, second, and third. Friday and Saturday shows are at 7 p.m. and the Sunday shows at 2 p.m. matinee. And then the next weekend, I guess 8th, 9th, and 10th, same thing. Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday matinee on the 10th at 2 p.m. And just call startheater.org. I mean, go to startheater.org. You can order tickets and pick the seat you want. And we've sold quite a few so far. But there's still availability.
Yeah.
Like anything else, people buy seats. A lot of the cast members' families buy tickets. But as we come up on the actual show, it gets a little more popular as we actually get close to it. So,
absolutely.
But it's a great show. I think you'll really enjoy it. And it's a quasi truthful caption of the way things were. Okay, now, being a stage play, that we don't have all the congressional delegates because there's 3, 4, and 5 from every colony, and but so some colonies, have one person there or 2, but it's they just try to capture the basic thing. And what's interesting about it is what I love about the play is, it's a musical and there's a little bit of comedy, but there's some really serious parts, and so very entertaining, but. It captures what happened back then, and what you'll notice when you watch the the Second Congress talk about it, you got these people, and they're gentlemen. They're gentlemen. You don't hear name calling like you do now. You know what I mean? They get hot, they get heated, and they argue.
Yes.
But they are relatively polite all the time. What they used to call the king's language. There's a lot of they always call you by, Mr. Hood, sir, or stuff like that. Mr. Hood or sir, even when they're kind of yelling at you, or chastising you, or dragging down your opinion of things. But it's interesting that these gentlemen, they had an honest-to-goodness difference of opinion about this country becoming independent, or more so, not so much that they didn't think it should be, they were very much concerned about the time of it, whether it was the time to do it or not. Because, we had an army then, that's barely what we had. We didn't have a navy, we didn't have anything like that, and we definitely had a ton less people than the people we were trying to separate from.
Yes.
There's a line in the play that says, how can a nation of 2 million souls stand up to an empire of 10 million? Think of it. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference.
It's a really cool show. And, when you think about it, when we signed the Declaration of Independence, which actually created us, it barely got done. I mean, we got there, but we got there just barely. I mean, it didn't. It was not like an overwhelming. Everybody just chimed on that bandwagon and signed up for it. Because once they signed that document, the last line of the document is very profound and poetic, because it says, "To each other we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honors."
Yes.
And that's exactly what they did. I mean, every one of those people that signed that document, if they'd been captured by the British, and some were, they would be tried and hung for treason.
That's true.
And so, they didn't know what kind of getting into. They didn't know we were going to get into an 8-year-long war. They didn't know if they could win it. And 3/4 of the way through that war, it never did look like we were going to win it. I mean,
that is true.
It was there was divine intervention on that war.
Amen.
Because it was a real David and Goliath. I mean, we were puny compared to the British Empire from a war standpoint. We were just started, and we had militia that was unorganized. Just, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And, farmers and people, but we had the gumption behind the cause is what really did it.
Right.
So anyway, gives you chill bumps when you think about how it went. It's fun, but it's kind of captured in a 1.5 to 2 hour play. So a lot of it's condensed, but it's supposed to be a quasi rendition of what actually happened. It certainly did from the position of the colonies.
Yeah.
So
It's too much of us take it for granted.
That's right.
What took place,
That's
and
right.
and it would do us well to really have a wealth of knowledge of our founding and our history.
And 11 years later, when they actually wrote the Constitution, the same thing. There was a lot of argument about how should we govern this country?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was an experiment. I mean, what we did in 1776 has never ever been done in the history of the world. It's the first time it's ever been done. So all of them are like, there's no playbook, there's no rules. We don't know how do you break away from their parent stem? How does a colony break away from the parent stem? And we don't know. We just wrote a document and said, we're leaving. We're leaving.
We're going to do it.
And that wasn't taken too well by the Fat George in London, as they refer to him. And so he sent his troops over to beat them into submission, and kind of did for a while, but they were kind of doing that anyway.
Yes.
And it was so much of an imposition on the colonists that pushed them to the point where they said, we are going to rebel. So, I mean, the concept should not be taken lightly. And if you put yourself in these people's place, I mean, they put everything on the line. Everything on the line. Because like I said, a lot of them lost their entire states because they came in, they burned things, they destroyed things, they killed families. The British killed families, they killed women and children. They come across with all that honor, but they're pretty ruthless when it comes to war. Because if you're in rebellion, you're the enemy, and some of those concepts don't come through. But anyway, it's not much about the war, because this is what started the war. There was a little bit of that going on because the initial battles of the war, like Concord and Lexington, had already taken place by the time they were at the Continental Congress. Those are the things that are precipitating the concept of breaking away.
Yeah.
So it's the birth of a sovereign nation. And look where we are. We did pretty good. We're now the superpower, greatest country on earth. Everybody wants to be here because of the way we govern ourselves.
Yes.
Stuff like that. So it's a really great play. I think you'll love it. It's very entertaining. And the actors are doing good.
That's great.
So it's going to be fun.
A lot of good participation.
Finally getting to the point where it's fun to do. I mean, when you're working hard, you're doing your lines, you can't remember them. We're practicing them and where to stand, and the songs some of them have a little choreography to them. And we got all these guys, and good luck teaching them any choreography. So it's got to be relatively, it's not going to be any, Rockettes kicking or anything, but.
That's good, wholesome entertainment for the family, and then and a good lesson too at the same time.
Now I don't know if this is really a warning or not, but there are a handful of hells and dams.
Yes.
And of course we're bound to the script. There's actually language in the license that we're not allowed to alter it. Which I often wonder, what happens if you just forget a line? I mean, is that altering?
Yeah, who's going to police that?
I mean, they kind of don't, but you're really not supposed to modify it. So we do that. I think we kind of curb it in some spots, but
what's interesting about those plays like that, and I didn't know this until relatively recently. When you guys do a play, and you have to kind of buy the rights to do the play, and because it belongs to someone.
That's right, and they're expensive.
Yeah,
very expensive.
And I thought you could just decide to do a play and do it, but you can't. It doesn't work that way.
Those are the copyright laws, and just on this one, I'll tell you how it works. It's owned by something called MTI, Music Theater International.
Okay.
And they also own a lot of the Disney stuff that we do.
Yeah.
And they are very expensive. And I mean, here's my gripe with this sort of thing. All the time you turn around and people like that or other people are trying to promote the arts. They say, we need more arts, we need more theater, we need more visual arts. We promote the arts, promote the arts. And then when you try to do it, I mean, they cut you off at the knees with the licensing costs. They're very expensive. I mean, it's thousands of dollars. I'm actually a sponsor of the show, which means I'm pretty much funding that. But we try to get sponsors to help because, in the older days of the theater, sometimes we would run a show for like 3 weekends because it took an entire weekend of ticket sales just to break even.
Oh yeah.
Got thousands and thousands of dollars to pay for the rights. Then it's like you get pay a certain amount per show, and that per show amount is based on how many people you have in the audience.
Oh wow.
And then they tell you if you're going to advertise play, there's certain things you got to put in the flyers you put out. You got to put the people that wrote it, the authors and the music people in it. You got to give the credit to them all the time. And every time you turn around, and then if you want, you have to pay extra for the scripts, and you have to pay extra for the music scores. It's a whole thing that goes on.
They just nickel and dime you to death.
Yeah, there's a whole thing that goes on behind the scenes. But I mean, that's just the way it's done. But and some are more expensive than others. The Disney plays are just exorbitantly expensive, which it just kind of disappoints me.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
No, it doesn't. But it disappoints me. And there's a lot of plays that there are other people that own them, and they're a little more reasonable with what they want for fees and stuff.
Right.
They'll negotiate and they'll work with you. Because when you're a small community theater, I mean, our maximum capacity is 150 seats, so we're small. It's hard for us to stay afloat from ticket sales. Over here at Lawrenceburg, you got a pretty big theater, probably sits close to 750, maybe even 1,000 if they use the balcony.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can make a lot of money if you can pack that house.
Yeah.
We can't. Our house is packed at 150. So
Yeah. A little bit
only
different.
thing we can do is maybe a few more showings to compensate for that. But it's fun. I enjoy doing it. Everybody in it's having a good time. And we're kind of getting to that point where it's coming together and they're having a good time. And as the director, I look at them and the little petty things that I point out that I know that the answer to that is all they need right now is an audience. Because once you go out on stage and the house is packed with people, I mean, then everybody's brain just rises to a higher level. And I mean, you can't count on it and you can't control it. It just does. It just always does. And they perform much better than they've ever performed just because there's people watching.
It's a different energy, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, few people get up there and just clam up with stage fright. That's the only time there's ever any stage fright. That's when somebody flubs a line.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to try to reel it back in. Okay.
Yeah.
Get back on track. And now you have to think on the spot about what went wrong. What do you have to say that's going to make it right and get back on track? And that can be stressful, but it's happened to me enough times. I think I'm pretty good. And as an attorney that can think on my feet, a lot of times doing trial work and stuff like that, I can usually come up with something to say to get through it.
Yeah, exactly.
But so far we've been doing good on that. We've been doing good with that. So
good.
Anyway, come see it. Go to the rtheater.org and look at the website and maybe order tickets because everything's online.
It's a great little venue.
Yeah, it is. You've been to it. You came to Greece. You came to Golden Greece.
Yeah, I've been to that one and one prior to that, but it's been years ago. So, so I've been there a couple of times and I really enjoyed it.
So anyway, getting off that track, that I could probably tie that into estate planning because that was the birth of our law.
Yeah.
When you become a new nation, you got to govern the new nation. The new nation's governed by law, and they create the legislature, create the executive, and create the.
That would be an interesting. That would be an interesting study there to how our actual federal laws were developed.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, what were some of the first laws that were passed and done?
There was a set of papers called the Federalist Papers.
Yes.
That talk a lot about that.
Yeah. I've read some of those.
In the early days, each state had its own currency.
That's
and
true.
It was cumbersome.
That's true.
Because we were a nation of separate states, separate for their individual pursuits, but collective for their mutual protection and security, right? And so they reached a point in time where we had to deal with some kind of centralization of the currency because it was, if you have North Carolina dollars and you go into South Carolina, they didn't have the same value, and that made it very difficult for commerce and stuff. And so,
That's interesting.
just like we're seeing today to the current events, a country cannot exist on this planet without commerce and trade with others.
Commerce and trade, yeah.
So,
And
anyways,
it's being used, and it's
we need a better historian in here to get to some of that. But all that stuff had to go on, and you're right. We take a lot of that for granted.
Yeah.
Oh, we've always had dollar bills. No, we haven't. And actually, a lot of individual citizens donated their own gold to create the first set of gold coins and stuff like that. I mean, that would have been a tough time back then.
wow.
You really had to be a dedicated person back then.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, dedicated in many, many ways because
Many
their life was so different and
Yeah.
so much had to be done.
But you got to think of this: their life was so different, but their life was so bad that they felt they had to do this. They had to rebel and go into this war.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's what
A lot
rebellion-
of pressure from a tyrannical government,
Yep.
and we said no.
Yep.
Wow.
There's a line in there where I signed the document. Of course, if you look at the Declaration, John Hancock's got the largest signature of all, right in the middle.
That's true.
And it's real swoopy, so swishy.
Yeah.
And there's a line in there where I sign it, and Stephen Hopkins, the delegate from Rhode Island, says, "That's a pretty big signature, Johnny." And my response is, "So Fat George in London can see it without his glasses." So I mean, they weren't too happy. They call him Fat George because they weren't too happy with the king. Nobody calls him Your Majesty or his.
Do you know how it was delivered?
No, I don't.
I thought about that just now. I was like, I wonder how that was actually delivered.
I mean, I do know there were more than one copies made of it, but there was one original. I mean, when they make copies, then you just have to make multiple originals.
Yeah, that's right. Multiple originals,
And I assume that's how it was.
And I wonder if England still has the one that was delivered to the king.
I don't know. I think they probably got so ticked about it, they tore it up, threw it away. The
Probably
minute
burned
they got it.
They probably burned it when they got it. That's interesting.
And I hate to get off on this, but ours, the original we keep. For years, they used to bring it out. They used to keep it in Washington. And for years, they would bring it out every July 4th and put it on display.
Yeah.
And after so many years of doing that, the parchment and the ink started to be noticeably faded.
Oh.
And so they stopped doing that. And now the way the Declaration now is inside a case that's like, I don't know, vacuumed and filled with something inert like nitrogen or something.
Yeah.
And it's kept in the archives, which is very dark and a very controlled lighting. And you can go look at it if you want to go look at it. When you look at it, you'll see it's pretty faded. There's spots you can barely read.
Yeah.
And they did that to preserve it before it got long. Because, if something ever happens to it, we will forever argue well, here's a copy we made before it got destroyed. Yeah, but I don't remember. I mean, they'll forever argue with how accurate it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the governing document. That too was divinely inspired.
I believe so too. I believe so too.
I mean, those guys they were great guys, but they weren't smart enough to come up with that concept. That concept was divinely inspired.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's still working today. A lot of people say, the Constitution's outdated, we need to write a new one. That would be a recipe for disaster.
I agree. I agree, 100%.
What we have works. It has worked for 250 years. It may be a new world, but the new world, it's the same Constitution, and it needs to stay the same. And it would take a lot to change it.
Yes.
Take pretty radical government to change it. Because they change it, it'd just be open season on
changing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I mean, how do you rely on a document that's just easily changeable?
I would say that you're in the same camp I am. You're an originalist when it comes to the Constitution.
Yes.
But we have had leaders who want to say it's a living, breathing document and wants to be changed.
And it has
all
changed.
that
I mean, the original Bill of Rights had 12, not 10.
Yeah.
And the two that they deleted in the original one had to do with the number of people in the census and representation.
Yeah.
But they deleted those because the argument was it was adequately covered enough in section 5 of the Constitution,
Yeah.
Article 5. So,
Yeah.
so that's when you hear about the 10 Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
There were actually two more, but now we're up to 20-some.
Yeah.
27, 28. So
Yeah.
you can amend it, you can modify it. So
That is
that's
true.
the living, breathing part of it. You modify it to fill holes that kind of exist.
They were smart enough to know that they didn't know everything.
Yep, that's right.
That's
why they wrote into how to change it.
right, exactly.
But it's a big deal to change it.
Yeah.
In other words, they wrote in how to change it, but what it means is you got to really, really want to change it, and the people have to really, really be on board to change it. Because you draft a constitutional amendment, and you have to get 3/4 of the state to ratify it.
Yeah.
And that has to go out to vote.
Yeah.
And if you can't get it done in 7 years, it fails. There's a time clock on it.
Yeah.
Classic example was the Equal Rights Amendment.
Yeah.
That one came up when it's a bunch of states ratified, a bunch did not, but not enough of them did. The 7 years expired, and it never. And the main reason it didn't fly is because the people that were opponents of it was those equal rights are adequately covered in the rest of the document. They already talk about equal rights for everybody.
Yeah.
You didn't have to say male or female. I think that's what it was about.
Right.
But I remember when that was going on. And yeah, as an originalist, it's like why add a language where the language is already exists?
It's already been addressed.
That's right.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tie this into estates and estate planning because when you set up your trust or will, or you set up your estate, you have established a way that you want it done, and that's not easily changed either unless there's some agreements are made and things like that.
Another neat thing is most of the trust law that we have, existed in our common law jurisprudence, which means that it derived from our English ancestors and how things were done. Back in a lot of the trust law developed back in England where you don't have much land. Got a bunch of people with not many landowners because there's only so much over there.
Right.
And you had that feudal system where people owned land, but other people lived on it, worked it. And a lot of times property was dealt with in trust because of that. So,
yes.
It's changed over the years a little bit, but it definitely still derives from those English roots of us. And so, and you're right. When you make we can make a trust for you that deals with your property and deals with other things. And if you want to change it, you can. But I mean, you have to change it for it to be a change. You have to go through the process of changing it. It's not that big a deal. But you don't want it. What you don't want is you want to be able to change it if it's your trust, but you don't want it to be changed by anything else.
Yes.
You want that to be a very difficult thing to do, like somebody substituting their judgment for yours, like your successor trustees or after death. You don't want that being easily changed.
Yeah.
And it's not that way.
Yeah.
But you, the maker of the trust, you have the ability to change it pretty much whenever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the lines are open, and we got a call coming in.
I guess we forgot to give the number.
766-9393 if you want to talk with Stan this morning. Hey, good morning. You're on WDXE with us.
Yes, this is a 3-week continuation. He said something last week about you could put something in the trust that wasn't, but when you do it, it's back to the case of the person I was talking about whose mother and father are still alive in their late 80s and early 90s. Okay, could the parents have put this in the trust if they knew ahead of time to do this, that if either or both of the parents decided they did not want to go to a nursing home, that they were to use the life estate as a reason they've already signed over to the 3 kids. It's very hard to feel sorry for somebody, and I know this sounds judgmental on it, but somebody's sitting on, say, close to $1 million in assets, and all they have is Social Security, but it was set up originally so they could stay at home, I guess due to their limited understanding or maybe a poor attorney or whatever. I just find that this is a real case, but I don't know enough about it. I would think people would want something in there that would, their judgment would still be there. I just wondered legally if that ever happens or what you would see a solution if this were in Tennessee.
Whoop, she went. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't find the question in there.
I'm not sure I understand.
It was something in trust, but something that was in trust never was there. Because
Yeah.
it couldn't have been the home because she said they reserve a life estate. When you reserve a life estate, you've already given the home away.
Yeah.
You just reserve the ability to live somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of.
I talked about that quite a bit last
There's a lot of details that would have to be known before you could answer that, I would think.
maybe we just give her opportunity to formulate the question.
Can you clarify more?
What could a person do if they were coming to you to set up a trust or a will, and they wanted to do something like that? You said last week, always put the real estate in the trust, and I assume that has to do with you want to go to a nursing home or that's it. But if you didn't know that, to leave the option to the one that's left or the other that they could stay at home because they could afford to stay at home. I just wondered how to prevent the problem because these people are sitting on, like I said, a lot of money in real estate, but can't seem to agree on what to do because they know one of the parents wants to stay in the home. And when they set it up, that's the way they set it up, with the understanding with the executive, the person in charge of it. Well, how could you prevent something like that?
I'm still not sure, but it sounds like they can do whatever they want to do.
I'm missing it too. Let me see if I can come up with something. You know, the question is like, how can you prevent that from happening? I don't have a clear
I
understanding
don't know what she's wanting to,
what that is.
What is she wanting to prevent? I don't know what.
But let's just talk about it in general terms. You can certainly put the home in there.
Yeah.
And I did mention it, that I always recommend the real estate. Now, I recommend the real estate be put in the trust for one main reason. That is because it is usually a big ticket item.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a home is typically hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, some more than others, but it's a large amount of wealth that resides in a home that just goes up all the time. And the reason we put it into a trust is we want to make sure it either gets to our heirs that we want to leave it to, and when it's in a trust, we can guarantee that's exactly what will happen. Or if we are worried about long-term care, it can go into an asset protection trust, which protects the home from being a resource that you have to use to pay for your cost of care. Okay, that's why we put it. That's why I always recommend it. Now, she was kind of saying that they got a lot of money in real estate, but they decided to stay at home. Well, the cost of care is not even an issue there because they're staying at home. Whatever they're doing at home, they're just private paying for it.
Yeah.
What we're trying to protect it for, we put it in asset protection trust, is if you do go into a long-term care facility, that's a pretty expensive endeavor. That's costly, and we want to keep from using our primary residence as an asset to pay for that. That's why I recommend the real estate. And there's a way to do that, because if you don't, let's maybe look at it more like what happens if you don't put it in trust. Maybe that'll get us there. You know, if you go in a home, and I'm going to use, I'll use you, Mr. Jeff, as an example.
I can do it.
Let's go into the future a few years. Well, maybe a bunch of years. You don't want to be there too soon.
That's right.
20 years, maybe with 30. You're in the nursing home, okay? And you come to the point where you say, you know, I need to, the statute says, you know, let's say you're legal-minded, you have nothing else to do while you're there, and so you start reading law books and you say, the statute says that if you go into long-term care, you have a duty to shift the burden to the third-party state, which is the Bureau of TennCare. I mean, it actually says to do that. Now, it's like, why? Well, because that's what the program's for.
Yeah.
That's what it's funded for. You're supposed to do that. Now, if you don't, they don't get mad at you because that's money they don't have to spend. But technically, you're supposed to shift that burden. So you say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to fill out the 16-page TennCare application. I'm going to send it in, try to get the Tennessee Bureau of TennCare to pay for my bill. Okay. Now, when you do that, they will, but you've got to become eligible. Okay. And to be eligible, you can't own very much.
Right.
So I'm only going to talk about the home. So you have a home that you live in. Now that's called your primary residence versus what's called other real estate.
Yes.
To make the distinction, where you live is your primary residence. If you own a rental home across town, meaning there's a third-party owner between you and the personal residence, then it's considered other real estate, and that has no protection. But let's just talk about the primary residence, because what it has is not protection. It has just a special status, but it's not a protective status. What happens is, it's a countable asset. Your home is a countable asset. And when you have a countable asset, let's back up a little bit and say all you have is a countable asset, which is cash in the bank. Let's say you got $50,000 in the bank. That's a countable asset. So you will never be eligible because they're going to say you have too much money. You are expected to use that $50,000 in the bank to pay for your care. Now, when it's all gone, now you'll be eligible because you don't have anything.
Right.
Because a countable asset, they're expected to use for the cost of care.
Yes.
So if you have money in the bank, if you have a CD, and a lot of the things we have now are accountable.
Yeah.
So, but your home, the primary residence, is a countable asset, but it is an excluded asset. Now, what that means is, well, let's just nuke it out. Let's use easy numbers. You got a $100,000 house. Now, today, a $100,000 house is a Tobacco Road tar paper shack. I mean, usually it's more, but I'm using a nice round number. I guess I shouldn't have said it. If your house is down in there, don't get mad at me. I didn't mean it. I'm just saying the average house is a couple $100,000, right? You're in real estate.
Yep.
So
at least.
let's say $100,000 house, just because it's a nice, easy number.
Right.
and you go to apply for TennCare. Well, if you have to have less than $2,000 of accountable assets to be eligible, are you not over-resourced by $98,000 with that example?
Well, you would be.
You would be, that's right.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, how can you ever get into a nursing home? Are you expected to sell the home you may someday return to?
Yeah.
Or your spouse lives in? Are you expected to sell the home? And the answer is, because it's the primary residence, no, you don't have to sell it, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, that's why it's not protected, it's deferred. It's not yet, you don't have to sell it. So here's what they do. Excluded means this. All right, Mr. Jeff, we're gonna calculate what your countable assets are. And we're gonna take your home, that $100,000 your home is worth, out of the countable assets column. We're gonna put it over here in the excluded column, okay? So we're not using that against you when we figure out your eligibility. So let's say now you do have $2,000 or less, and now you're eligible, right? So you're in the home, they start paying your bill. I don't know how long you're there, average I think is 3.6 years.
Yeah.
And you pass away, okay? Now, what happens, this surprises people. Let me say this so it's perfectly clear. When you pass away, TennCare now can go after what's ever in your estate to get repaid. In other words, you didn't know that when you get qualified for TennCare, that it's really like a loan, and after you pass away, TennCare wants paid back. A lot of you talk about sticker shock. People pass away, and Gertrude's been in the home, and then decide to get a bill for $200,000-$300,000. It'll be 30-some pages of everything they've ever paid for her, and they want it back. It's like, I can't believe they want us money back. I thought we got qualified for TennCare. We did. They paid, but now they want paid back. It works like a loan.
Oh boy.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, they're going to go after everything in your estate. Now, remember the house. It didn't go anywhere. We didn't change ownership. It didn't go anywhere. You still own it at your death. They just didn't use the value of it against you for the eligibility calculations to see if you were eligible.
But now it's in your estate.
Now it's your estate. Now they come after. It's called a TennCare Estate Recovery Act, and they will go after that home. It's ripe for them to go after. Now, what they do then is they'll tell your heirs that now they come in because of the state of Tennessee. So you got 3 children. Let's say you say in your trust or your will or whatever, that I leave my house to my 3 kids, equal shares. Well, the state of Tennessee is coming in as a priority lien on that. They will come in because of the government. They'll come in ahead of your 3 kids. And let's say your house is worth $500. Well, let's two examples. Let's say your house is worth less than you racked up a bill for. Your house is worth $200,000. You racked up a bill of $300,000. The whole house got consumed. Okay,
That's true.
they'll force a sale of it, and they'll get what they can. You know, they won't get what they're due.
Right.
But they'll take what they can. That's why I call it the recovery. They'll get what they can, and they'll move on. Now, let's say your house is worth $500,000 and you racked up a $300,000 bill. No, they can't get any more than what they're due, but they can force that sale and sell it. Let's say you get $500,000 for sale. Well, they'll take their 3 and they'll distribute the other 200 to where your will says the house would have gone, because that's what's left of the house.
Right.
Or you can negotiate with them. God bless them, they will go to your kids and say, hey, we don't want the house. We're not in the business of having houses. We just want paid, so you can buy us out.
Isn't that nice of them?
You can take this house and give us, if you give us $300,000 that satisfies the bill that you racked up, we'll take that and you can have the house. So what do? They inherit a $500,000 house. They only inherited $200,000 of it. They had to pay for the other 3. Okay. So that's how they get the house. They don't make you sell the house up front to pay for your bill.
Sure.
It's the same effect. You end up paying for your bill with that house. It just happens afterward. And there's reasons why it's like that. I'm not going to get into it. It would take a long time. But you know, whenever you apply, you have to declare this intent to return home.
Yeah.
Most people don't, but you have to declare that intent. By declaring that intent is what makes it an excluded asset. So,
Is there a timing or a time limit with the TennCare Estate Recovery Act of them to force you to sell a home, or if it's in an estate, or can they just, if someone can say, I'm not going to sell it, because they're going to get the money, we'll just sit on it?
Well, first of all, is there a time limit? It ends up in probate, and it's got the probate time limits.
Okay.
And for her, first of all, if you pass away, they will come after that home, but they won't come after it if Teresa's still alive, your spouse.
Right.
They will wait God bless them, they'll wait till your spouse passes away before they'll go after it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about if everybody's gone and there's just the property.
So you mentioned time periods, and I thought I'd throw that one in there.
Oh, okay.
So now we get to that point. Now it's a probate action, and now the kids can't say, we're not gonna sell, because they don't own it yet. It still belongs to you and Teresa.
Okay,
The estate still owns it, right?
the estate owns the
And now they
property.
got a priority lien coming in on it, they're saying, hey, either pay us or we'll sell the house, or you sell the house. If
Yeah.
you don't sell it, we're gonna force a sale of it so we can get our money.
Okay,
Now, time, probate, technically they have a year to make that claim. It's pretty loose time frame, because I know sometimes there's a lot of things that can excuse it for being longer because it's the government.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but they they have a whole department that deals with estate recovery. If you ever get a letter from TennCare, it's gonna be about 8-9 pages long. As you leaf through there, one of them will be, notice of estate recovery, where they'll say
Yeah.
exactly the stuff.
yeah,
So, time frame, again, whatever the probate court is governed by, they have a lot of time limits, rules, regulations in probate that will control that. But they're coming in as a creditor like any other creditor, with the exception is they have a priority over all others because of the state of Tennessee. Because if they can't, their theory is if they can't recover, the program can't stay alive, right? They gotta make some money.
yeah,
So,
interesting.
the primary residence is at risk. Now, here's the problem I have. If you go on the internet, they'll say, yeah, if you want to get eligible, you don't have, they don't count your home. That's not true. Or the nursing home will tell you, hey, don't worry about your house. That's a protected asset. I object to the term protected. It is not. They're going to come after it. They're just not going to come after it yet. But
Yeah.
they will come after it.
Yeah, they sure will.
And
I've seen it happen
And
many
the
times.
reason is, if they have a piece of real estate, they can always recover from that. That's
That's
a
right.
sellable thing. Now, they may not get what they're due, but they'll take what they can get.
Yeah,
So it's pretty ruthless.
yeah, and that's what you're all about, is protecting those
Oh,
assets.
that's right. I mean, if you want to protect it now, and it's not like, I think she made a comment, she said she didn't have any sympathy for somebody that has a lot of money, and I thought she was gonna go with that and say, that still gets eligible for TennCare, but she didn't, so I don't know if that's what she was thinking or not, but, I get that comment a lot,
Yeah.
Well, if you have assets, this program's for people who have nothing. That's not true. It's not for people who have nothing. It's for people who have less than $2,000 of countable assets, and immediately your brain says, well, that goes to people who have nothing. If you only got $2,000, you're pretty poor.
Yeah,
That's not what it says. It doesn't say $2,000 to your name. It says people with $2,000 of countable assets. It's a big difference between the two.
countable assets.
If you can
it looks like I'd learned that after listening to you
you
for a
take,
while.
that's right. I mean, so here's the question I would ask with my legal mind. Let's just say everybody wants to, okay, I have to have less than $2,000 countable assets. Countable is a category.
Yes,
Okay, there's other categories than that. There's several categories of non-countable assets. So I would ask myself, okay, if I have less than $2,000 countable assets, I can be eligible for TennCare, right? The answer is yes.
that's right.
You'll be eligible for TennCare and pay your bill.
That's right.
What if I have $2,000 of countable assets and had $500,000 of non-countable assets? Can I still be eligible for TennCare?
You
The answer
can.
is absolutely.
You can.
And you say, okay, and I can keep going to as big a number as you want to make.
That's right.
But I say, well, how do we get there? Well, we convert it from countable to non-countable. Here's a classic way. You take a $500,000 house. You do one of my asset protection trusts. We deed the $500,000 house to the trust, and you sign the document. The minute you sign it, it's in the trust, because recording has nothing to do. As soon as the owners sign it, the property is conveyed. And the new grantee is the trust. So the minute you sign it, at that very moment, that $500,000 house has been transferred into a non-countable asset. Because when you put it in this trust, we're limiting the access to it, and it's not available. Here, I always say this at my seminars. You said it right now. You should have learned it right now. If you hear the word countable assets and you have trouble figuring out what that is,
Yes,
insert the words available for the cost of care asset.
yes,
So if you got money in the bank, it's certainly available to pay your care, right?
that's right.
Well, what we're going to do is put it in this trust where we limit the access to it, and it's not available to you.
Yes,
So if you don't have access to it, they don't have access to it. Now, it doesn't mean you can't use it. Doesn't mean you don't still control it. We have all this indicia of control. We just don't technically own it. Our trust owns it, so it's not going anywhere. It's not going to anybody else.
Right.
You have control over it. You don't have to move out. You can still live there. It's a mortgage. You still pay the mortgage. You still mow the grass. You still clean the gutters out. You still do everything that you do right now.
yes,
It'll be seamless to you. But at your death, it's not in your estate. It's in your trust, and it escapes estate recovery. And it's not even in the eligibility purposes. They don't even have to exclude it because it's not there to exclude. They can only exclude a countable asset. That's
That's
the only
amazing.
That's the only countable asset I know of that is excludable.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why it's, thus the word planning. That's why we have to do things ahead of time. You gotta put this stuff in trust. Then when it comes time to become eligible, everything in trust. Let's say I draw a box in my PowerPoint and put a house in it, draw a little picture of a house and put the house inside the box. Everything in the box is out of the equation when you're trying to get eligible. That's the beauty of the asset protection trust, but it has to be done in advance. You have to do it sometime before you're going to be, if you're headed for long-term care next weekend because it's time to go there, the trust isn't the best tool because it takes a certain amount of time to get the full protection. But you got to do it ahead of time. And of course, I'm dealing with that 60-month look-back period.
Yes.
So if we can put property in trust, stay out of the nursing home for 5 years, that's when we have the full power, everything in that box. So let's say you got a $700,000 house.
Yeah.
That is completely out of the picture. And so now your trust says this $700,000 house goes to my 3 kids. Now there's an absolute assurity that it'll be there at your death to go to them. Nobody can get at it now. They can't go. People say, I want to keep the nursing home from getting my stuff. The nursing home doesn't take anything. Okay, what they do is they say, if you've got a lot of money and they won't take your money, they'll say, listen, if you don't pay us, you can't be here.
Yeah.
Right? But if you try to become eligible for TennCare is going to say, we're not going to pay the bill until you are below $2,000 of accountable assets. Yeah. But we can get there by changing it. Now, people will say, well, that's a bunch of legal double talk, right?
Yeah.
let me tell you why it's not. Everybody's heard the term spend down. But nobody understands what it means. They say, okay, you got too much money. You need to spend it down. You need to get rid of it. Spend it on stuff. Give it away to your kids, which is the exact wrong thing to do.
It is.
Spend down, when you think of it, you can't apply the street vernacular definition to it, which sounds like you're going on a spending spree.
Yeah.
Spend down is a legal term. If you want to understand what spend down is, you go to the TennCare Act, and it's defined. It's defined as recategorizing your property.
Yes.
What was I just talking about? Changing from countable to non-countable is changing the category of it. You're expected to do that. I don't come up with this. I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
The rules tell you that you can recategorize your property to protect it.
Yeah.
There's rules in there that tell you how to protect some of your property. You're not required to spend all of it on the cost of care. But somewhere over the years, that seems to have become the accepted thing to do, which is one of the reasons why I started my seminars in the first place.
Yes.
And I think I've said this on this show. I know I've said it on my national show, where maybe people that work for TennCare would actually listen to it. And that is, I throw this challenge out. People say, if you go to the nursing home and they say, Jeff, you got $50,000 in the bank, just use that to pay for your care. And then when you get down to nothing, then we'll apply for TennCare and you'll be eligible. And that is a way. I don't think it's a very good way, but it's a way, right?
Yeah.
I challenge anybody, show me where in the statute, it's a pretty big set of rules, show me anywhere in there where it says when you do spend down, you have to spend money on the cost of care. I throw the challenge out there very confidently because if you want to show me where it says that, you won't be successful because it's not. I've looked, it's not there.
It's not there.
It is not there, and it makes sense that it's not there. That's not what they're wanting you to do. That's not what the law is requiring. Now it gets very complicated. The law. I can't explain it on a radio show, and if I did, most people wouldn't quite be able to follow it because it's very involved. But when you know it like I do, it all ties together, and it makes more sense. When you hear one crazy thing out of the law, that, well, they can do this, it's like, well, gee, I don't understand how they can do that. Well,
right.
If you understand the whole scheme, what they're doing or it can do makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, why do they make this penalty period? This is a good one. We're getting toward the end anyway. Here's a good one. They make this penalty period. They say, if you give anything away, we're going to use that against you. So let's take this $100,000 house you give, and let's say you talk to Joe down the street. Joe down the street, he's the guy that's got the inside line on everything. He knows how things work.
Knows how it works.
And he gives you advice freely. And he says, Jeff, give that house to your kid. Give your son that comes in here from time to time. So you need to give that to him so they won't get it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And unfortunately for you, you decide to act on Joe's advice, and you say, okay, I'm going to do that. So you deed it to your kid for $10 love and affection. So it's a non-compensated transfer.
Right.
Well, when you go, then you say, now I'm going to apply for TennCare, and they can't take my stuff because I don't have it anymore. Smart me, I got out, they can't take my home because it's not mine to take anymore.
Right.
Wrong. They thought about that before the ink was even dry on the Medicaid Act in 1965.
Yeah.
And so what they're gonna do is they're gonna say, okay, they're gonna do this analysis on you. And they're gonna
Yeah.
say, Jeff, we've looked at your 10-care application. Let's just say everything else is in order. You're eligible. You have less than $2,000 accountable assets. We're ready to pay. However, we're not going to pay because when we look back in your history for 5 years, which was 60 months,
Yep.
we saw that you transferred an asset for less than fair market value. Now, that would have you would have done that like a month before you applied, right?
Yeah.
Right, but it was in the 60 months.
Yep.
They're gonna say, if you do that, our assumption under the law is that you did so for eligibility purposes, which is exactly why you did it.
That's true.
And so they're gonna say, if you did it in the next 60 months, the presumption is you've done so to artificially impoverish yourself. So we are allowed to punish you for that. We're ready to pay for you, but we're gonna impose a penalty period that we're not gonna pay. The penalty period is based on the value of what you gave away. So they're gonna take $100,000, assuming that's the only thing you gave away. They'll add them all up if you got multiple ones, but let's say that's the only one. They're gonna take $100,000 divided by the Tennessee penalty divisor, which is $8,846.10 per month, which is supposed to be based on the cost of care.
Yeah.
And they're gonna divide it. And 8,800, almost 9,000 into $100,000 is gonna be somewhere around 11 months.
Yeah.
Maybe let's say a year. And they're gonna say, okay, here's the end result. Jeff, we got your application. You're eligible. We're ready to pay.
Yeah.
However, we are not gonna pay your bill for 12 months because we're imposing a penalty period because you gave away an asset that had you kept it, you could have used it to pay us.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when they say pay us, they don't mean necessarily up front. You could have paid us through a state recovery if it was that particular asset of the primary residence. But nonetheless, it would have gone to the cost of care, right?
Yes.
So now let's think about this. Why? It's like, why would they do that? Well, let's think about it. TennCare is a program that has to raise money to stay alive, right? Right? If you could do that, everybody would, and they'd never be able to recover anything. So TennCare has to take the position where they don't take a risk.
Yeah.
So let's look at that. If you are over-resourced, you have to use those assets to pay for those 12 months. And so they don't pay for the 12 months because you're paying for them, right?
Yep, that's right.
Now, if you give it away and you think you got them cornered, they're gonna say, we're gonna impose a penalty period and we're not, and now you can't private pay because you gave it away, so you just don't get care. But either way, TennCare is not paying again. They don't pay if you pay. If you're private paying, they're not paying those 12 months.
Right.
If they impose a penalty period, they're not paying for the 12 months again, and they don't really care who's paying for it, whether your kids are chipping in or what. But you see, because this asset could have paid for those 12 months, they have structured it in such a way that it works out the same for TennCare both ways.
Yeah.
They are not taking a risk. And
Yeah.
that's how it fits in the grand scheme. Now, do I like that scheme? I'm not too crazy about it, but it makes sense now of exactly why that works and
Sure.
why that penalty period is there.
Sure.
I get the concept. But also in the law is how to protect assets. And be honest with you, back in 2006, when they passed the Deficit Reduction Act, they took several things away. All the states took a big hit back then.
Yeah.
But now we still have things to protect property. I talk about them all the time. But before 2006, we had more things. But no sense going back over that because that's not available anymore.
They're not there.
So, but it's not me thinking of things to game the system. I use their rules. I'm playing in their sandbox. I'm playing by their rules. And we do what we're allowed to do, and there's still plenty of options to do. When we talk about the Asset Protection Trust, as we're wrapping up, I'm going to say that I'm going to be talking about that Asset Protection Trust tomorrow. Tomorrow at our seminar, which is the one where I got invited to, which is in the Marshall County Memorial Public Library.
Yeah.
That is right in downtown, well, I don't know if it's downtown, but it's right there in Lewisburg. And they've invited us over there. They are doing something where they do multiple subject matters for seniors throughout the month of April. They wanted somebody to talk about estate planning, and they reached out to me.
Sure.
And I said, sure. And so it's tomorrow, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, like our normal Saturdays. It's called Wills Trust and the Nursing Home. It's a regular, if you came to my seminar last month here, it's gonna be the same seminar.
Yeah.
It's just sponsored by the Marshall County Public Library.
That's great.
And so that's over there, the address for that, if you want to come, it's not a bad drive over to Marshall County. If you want to come, the physical address is 310 Old Farmington Road, Lewisburg, Tennessee. It escapes me where exactly that is in Lewisburg, but it's just off the square.
It won't be hard to
block
find.
or two off the square. Yeah. Yeah, that's where it's gonna be, and, you know, it's just like a regular one, there's no cost to it, it's a,
Yeah.
you know, public event.
Awesome, good.
You hear what we do, I'll do my regular seminar, and you'll hear some of these options a little more. If you wanna come on, I mean, it's a very interesting topic, and it's a relief to know that there is things we can do. Most people feel like, you know, I know attorneys that give the advice to people that they go ask them about this, you know, like Aunt Gertrude's going into care, what can we do? And it's like, you know, you're just SOL, you're just gonna lose everything. They're gonna take it and that's all there is to it, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And that's bad advice, because there's a lot of things we can do. They just are not willing to put in the time, energy, and effort and understand those laws, and so they should say that. They say, you know what, I don't know anything about that, so I can't give you any advice, rather than give you bad advice, okay?
Right.
But, you know, I can't control that either. I just get mad about it.
Just get mad about it.
So, anyway, if you want to talk more about it, you don't really have to RSVP for that, because it's not my event. Some people have called me and told me they were coming, but
Yeah.
if you want to come to that, it's call me at Pierchoski Estate Law, Pierchoski Elder Law, 931-363-7222, 363-7222, or go to Estate Plan Stand website, and you can see a lot of other stuff. So come to it if you want to. You're welcome. I guarantee you will learn some stuff.
Yeah. We got about 1 full minute left.
I was gonna say, your clock says we
Yeah.
have 2.5 full minutes.
Yeah, it's wrong. We're about a minute on.
All right,
a
you're gonna
minute
make me
away.
talk on the radio, and you're gonna make me do math, clock math at the same time.
Well, I was just going to remind everybody that, of course, you're just off the square in a new office setting. And beautiful office, by the way, I saw that. And the phone number 363-7222, and of course the website is Estate Plan Stand, easy to remember.
.com, yeah. And then again, yeah, my office is 304 West Jefferson Street, just 1 block off the square. You can see it. I got good signage,
Yep.
and we love it there.
Always interesting, always a pleasure, and of course, don't forget the play that's coming up. You might want to plug that one more time.
1776, the musical, May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Friday and Saturday at 7, the Sunday at 2 o'clock. Doing the same thing again on the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Friday and Saturday at 7. Friday, Saturday, 7, and Sunday at 2 o'clock. Get your tickets. You know, I don't even know what the cost is. I'm doing directing, not the producer.
And you can see Stan.
You can go to startheater.net .org,
Yeah.
and you can get the prices, something like that.
And you can see Stan as John Hancock.
That's right.
That's right. See you next time, buddy.
Always a pleasure.
You will not have nuclear weapons.
Ran into it a little bit, didn't we?
That's all right. We're all right.
Meaningful and verifiable ways, or instead they can watch.
Look at your clock.